Hello and welcome to the i3 Insights podcast. My name is Wouter Klein and I'm the Director of Content for the Investment Innovation Institute. As you probably know, we love our disclaimers in this industry, so here's ours. The following recording is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice. Please enjoy the show. The following podcast was recorded on 27 February 2018 at the Investment Innovation Institute's Equities and Equity Alternative Forum in Sydney. Fred Schebesta, internet entrepreneur and co-founder of finder.com.au, talks about the future of online advertising, the impact of blockchain on businesses, and the sense and nonsense of cryptocurrencies. I hope you enjoy the show.
I'll just give you guys a bit of background on the journey I've kind of been on in terms of Finder. So Finder I started on my kitchen table. I'm actually one of those guys, building websites and things like that. And yeah, I'm that real deal story where grew up and in through the internet and built another company. I sold that company to a public company, and then Finder really got born out of the skills that I learned from that. And now it's gone on to be, so we have about 200 people now. We're in New York, London, and blockchain is exactly like the same thing that I saw when I was starting out on the internet and the journey it's going on right now. And so I'm going to cut through all the hype and I'm going to tell it straight, and I'm just going to tell it from my perspective because I've actually used the technologies. I've got a miner, an actual Ethereum miner in the office mining Ethereum. Like, I actually go and do these things. But what I've learned from the changing nature of online advertising, I'm going to talk a little bit about this and maybe a little bit about blockchain about that, but I can imagine everyone might be quite interested in terms of my perspective on where I see online advertising going. The actual challenge right now is that everyone's getting really ad bored. Like, they just don't click on ads. But what actually is happening underneath, and I'll give you my sort of perspective on this. There's a lot of sketchy, scammy kind of like fake clicks going on, and all these companies that are pitching that they're making money from, that's not a thing anymore. That's done. That's finished now. What customers are looking for now is they're going back and they're going deeper into what I call as the attention economy. Now, the attention economy is basically how much attention can your application basically garner from the customer. Like, are you front of app on your phone? How strong is your actual compelling value proposition these days? Because we are like 7 seconds and we're done. Like 7 seconds, if you haven't got my attention, we're done. So what Finder does, and I guess what we're trying to adapt to with this, I'm just going to tell my personal story because that's all I have the information and data truly I can present, is that what we provide is that real curated customer that's read all the information. They've gone through the customer PDS and they've gone through all the data, they've compared all the products, and we're sitting right at that real pointy end. And so what we do is we don't write ads, we just write content. And that's what people are wanting these days, right? Like big tech publishers, they're struggling. And the reason why they're struggling is they're powered by online advertising. Anyone who's powered by online advertising right now is literally in trouble because blockers, like ad blockers, are on the massive rise. There's an avalanche going on right now and no one's talking about it. And those guys are trying to adapt. So they're moving to things like native advertising, they're moving to partnerships, they need to move out. They're basically all moving into what I call, I don't know what the word is, but publishing commerce. So what you'll see is companies like, I don't know if anyone is here from these companies, but I'm just going to say it. Companies like Fairfax and News and all those companies, they are actually going to fall over themselves. Just launched a huge commerce platform. They're driving huge amounts of revenue now from Amazon sales. So what they do is they write an article. They say, here are the 10 scarves you should wear for Melbourne Cup or whatever it may be. And literally at the bottom of that, they give you links that they make commission from, which is kind of Finder's model, right? The other ones are just, I don't know what happens to those kind of companies, but I've probably never been around long enough to see them die, but they do. They will literally going to fall over them. I think the other thing is what customers are getting aware of, and I'll show you guys some of this with the blockchain. There's some interesting technology where people realize the value of their data. And everyone's saying, I've got this data, and we've got all this data and all those kind of things. I think you're seeing a rebellion now where people go, Facebook, you're too creepy now. Like, I don't trust you. Like, why are you calling me all the time? Like, there's a massive underwhelming rebellion coming on the internet around that. And what you'll see with that is that people are going to know that their data is valuable. So there's a lot of technology, a lot of investment going into the place in between the data, the customer's data, and the actual provider. Laws are going to change this, the open banking laws, the open health laws, all those kind of things. That's going to change all that, so you can't just collect their data. A major, major trend going on there and huge amounts of investment. My contention to you right now would be looking at companies that are basically dealing in that data, dealing in that permit to give Facebook your data. Like, why do we just give all our data to Apple on the phone? Why are they tracking us and all those kind of things? That data is valuable, and customers are going to wake up to that. And that's the trend. That's a major, major investment trend, and the people who get that right, I've seen huge amounts of investment going into that. The other thing I was talking about, the last thing I was going to say with advertising, online advertising, is trust in terms of websites. So there was a famous case I saw in New York where, Chase Bank, I don't know if you know Chase Bank, it's a big New York bank. And what they did was they got to a list of 500 advertisers, and they had the exact same number of sales. All these exchanges and programmatic advertising and all that stuff, I'm just going to put it out there, but Finder doesn't buy any of that. And that's really out there to say. I feel that's very controversial, but we just don't. Because I believe that's all just click bots, like just spam bots, basically just replicating clicks and creating IP addresses and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is going to end. Anyone own Ripple? Wow, this is awesome. So interesting. I don't understand what I just want to say right now. This is my only opportunity to do this, but if I am a long-term investor, I am like a deep investor. I was trading shares since I was 8 years old, and if you're not on cryptocurrency, then you're basically missing, that's the future right there. It's too deep now. There's too many people invested. There's too much adoption happening. There's too many smart developers out of all around the world. That's the difference this time. The difference this time is that before it used to come out of Silicon Valley, this time it's actually distributed around the world. That's never happened before. All the smart devs are working on this. And when smart devs work on stuff, they make really cool shit that you want to invest in. Let's talk about the actual evolution of where we're at. I just want to put this in perspective, okay? I don't know if you want to get a bit technical, but so most things like Google is in one place, and then everyone pings it. No one particularly, there is sort of a main node, but it's all connected together. And then you've got this, this is some tech stuff, but distributed is where basically it's like the internet. No one's in control. So if you take down one of the nodes of the internet still runs. Okay, so blockchains are mainly like this, distributed, where you can run applications, but then they build applications that are decentralized that sit on top of these things. There are some like Ripple, which is centralized. I'm going to get a little technical now, but for the Ripple fan here as well. That's centralized. That's where the bank controls the ledger and all this kind of thing. Let's just talk about, the corporate potential and things like that. I'm going to be the one that says the future is here because I truly, actually, deeply believe we are here. Money is going to get digital. Let's just be cool with that. You want to just control and own your value of your money. There's too many people now that want to hold value. Why does the bank hold your money? Why don't you control your money? Why don't you own your money? Why don't you have it in your pocket? And why can't I go and give this gentleman here my money? And in return, he gives me something. Why? And I guess that's the premise, right? It starts there. The other premise of this whole blockchain thing and the movement is, what is inflation? Inflation is a tax imposed by the person who controls the currency. We just are cool with it for some reason. People behind Bitcoin are hardcore religious cult-like people. I've met some of them, and they are next level. I'm up there, but this is I'm okay, you're Now, but if you look at any society, right, any society around the world, and any cultural movement of people, what do you need? You need cult-like belief. Deep belief, because bad things are going to happen, like hacks are going to happen. Technology is not going to work. Is anyone like not concerned? No, because there's so much belief. And that's what you're investing in. That's what you got to find in any technology, in any mass adoption in human like society in the world. That's what I find with these kinds of people, which is kind of cool. So I kind of bought in after I worked that whole situation out. Let's talk about real-world applications, right? So I want to focus on this one here because it's a new browser. And you're probably not going to hear about it now, but now you will. And what it was funded by the guy that made Mozilla by an ICO, so people raise money. So they kind of cut out the VCs. They cut out the normal channels of raising money, and they raise money directly. Let's never think about that. There's a bit of a disruption here. Apologies again to the VCs in the room. But no ads. So many websites, so many businesses out there right now, like Fairfax, News. Now, if none of those ads were ever shown, that's going to really, really, really hurt online advertising massively. And this is a major, strong movement behind it. There's a lot of adoption going on. These are the guys that made Mozilla, right? That's an example of where you've got, I think, a really interesting coin. Now, where it comes in is what they do is they say, look, if you let us advertise to you, we'll pay you. Let's move on. Currencies. So this is Litecoin, Bitcoin, and Monero. So Litecoin is really fast transactions. Bitcoin is, when you think about Bitcoin, so just here's the lay of the land. Bitcoin's like gold. It's the slow-moving, it's hard to process, hard to transact. It's not going to be the currency, if that makes sense. My view on this, I don't think Bitcoin will potentially be the currency. I think something else will probably be. They are doing some amazing things. If you want to look at Litecoin, I think it's amazing what they're doing. And Monero, I think, is always going to be around because everyone wants to be private. This is the one I think you want to focus on. This will help you understand. This is really, really key, in my view, really strong. Is like we talked about with that distributed network. What Ethereum is, it's like a massive computer. Imagine a massive computer distributed by all these computers all around the world, and which is currently happening. And you build little applications and you put them on top of it. And what happens is, if you want to run this decentralized application, anyone can actually see the code, anyone can tap into it. If you want to run it, you've got to pay gas. You pay this gas, the program runs, and everyone's cool. So there's amazing things. This is really the platform. Now the big trend I want to submit, if you were looking at cryptocurrency seriously, is we are currently in the phase of infrastructure and platforms. We're not at like mass adoption currency level. There's max 1,000 transactions. Visa's processing between 24,000 transactions a second, and they say they can do up to like 1 million, right? It's just not possible. That's straight chat. I don't know for all the hardcore crypto fans out there, but what's interesting about this, right, is that you've got this. Remember at the start, what was the big things? Hosting, domain names. That's where we are. We're back there. Internet access. Remember it was $5 for an hour of internet access? And everyone's talking about that's the same thing that's happening here. This is where we're at. Ethereum, things like platforms that help. I'm going to move on because I'm limited in time. The Internet of Things, I think, is a very, very long bow. It's a long way away. And there are companies like IOTA and things like that that are trying to do that. They're integrating with Bosch. So like your toaster will have a little sensor in it, your car and all those kind of things. I think that stuff is great and all. I think it's probably going to take some time. I've seen the tech and there's lots of problems. We publish Crypto Finder, so if you want to join, you can learn about cryptocurrency. So it's kind of cool. And this has obviously been a massive, massive, massive area of growth for Finder all around the world, which we've got a lot of data from. We do make predictions, so I can talk about where the prices of coins are going to go if you want to. Very out there. And we've launched a OTC desk to sell and buy large volumes of cryptocurrency. And that's all I have to say. I
might open up with, so the actual blockchain technology itself, you talked a lot about the cryptocurrency side of things, that underpinning that side. What about in, more broadly in the economy, where you can see that leverage really creeping in? Talked about online advertising, but what about the, more breadth in the economy side of things? Where do you see the application?
Yeah, so there's some, so China's investing heavily, and they are going to go heavy into logistics. So logistics, so they can move obviously all their bits and pieces around the world much, much, much faster. And that's going to be massive, because tracking all those parcels and where they are and all around the world, it's going to be awesome. There are some really interesting things coming on with health and genomics and things like that, centralized but anonymous and secure. I think that's really, really, really interesting. There are pretty out there ones like gambling, which is pretty obvious and it's made money. And I just want to flag as well, I'm just going to put it out there, is that there's a lot right now of hype. And I feel sad about that, because I think a lot of people are going to put a lot of money in that they've worked really hard for and paid tax for and things like that. And most, I'd say 96% of that's going to go to nowhere. The majority of the platforms like I talked about, infrastructure, things like that, they're going to stay around. There will be some projects that will get up, but there's a lot of people just literally writing a white paper and putting it on the internet and launching, and I feel bad about that. Not that I'm responsible, but I feel bad for them, what's going to happen. So I don't think we've seen the applications, because the actual infrastructure is not there yet.
Thank you for listening to the i3 Insights podcast. For more information, please visit our website at www.i3-invest.com. Thank you.